I'm in Acadia National Park at Scoter Point to make a point. Sea ducks aren't hard. If you want to identify a duck in the ocean, the first thing you have to do is make sure it's a duck. Snow? Really? Boy, I know how to pick them. Problem number one, there are many birds out there that look like a duck, but aren't. Problem number two, most of the ducks out here are black and white. Mostly. Problem number three, just like freshwater ducks, male and female ducks don't look like each other. Problem number four, most of these ducks are pretty easy up close. But how often are you up close? And if that weren't enough, a lot of these ducks can be on salt or freshwater. Talking about you, Mr. Bufflehead. Even puddle ducks can be out to sea, the little twerps. And if that weren't enough, a lot of the ducks are on both North American coasts, Atlantic and Pacific. A lot of the things that look like ducks are only on one. Still with me? Because it gets weirder. All those birds that aren't ducks but look like ducks, their genders look alike. It's only the ducks that are screwing things up. So, some of the birds that look like ducks, loons, cormorants, grebes, and that whole alcid family. So all those are diving birds. We're going to ignore the ones that don't dive much, don't go underwater. We're talking gulls, we're talking all those pelagic birds up from the South Atlantic. Birds that really aren't diving, we'll ignore those. I do have an advantage. This is the Gulf of Maine with typical Maine weather. Every sea duck from Canada to Key West is right out here in the Gulf of Maine somewhere. I get a lot of practice. West Coast, not so much. Loons and cormorants aren't that hard to separate out. They're longer, lower, longer necked, pointier bill. They just have a different shape than that fairly squat, flat-billed duck. Grebes, a little bit smaller, pointier bill, snakier neck. Alcids come in all shapes and sizes. Their bills come in all shapes and sizes, except duck shape and size. Most are slim and pointy. Then you got the puffin bill, and then there's the razor bill. But all alcids tend to be rather squat, sit low in the water, have short wings. So once we get rid of all the troublesome birds, there's not a lot of color overlap between all the ducks. You got this. The solution to problem number one when you're trying to identify a duck on salt water is not to misidentify a grebe. Problem number two, the sea ducks are mostly black and white. Problem number three, the females are mostly not. We'll take both of them together. That's actually a blessing because that limits the amount of colorful field marks you have to look for. Really, when you're looking at sea ducks, it's mostly one or two key features that you're trying to pick out. Most of these key field marks are noticeable even at a distance. Buffleheads. Even at a distance, they really can't be confused with anything else. Well, at a distance, maybe a male hooded merganser. That's about it. Buffleheads are the tiniest ducks out here. I always see them on salt water, but they're perfectly at home on freshwater too. Years ago, I was in a national wildlife refuge not far from Hilton Head, South Carolina, and there are buffleheads swimming out in this freshwater pond, surrounded by alligators. Mind blown. Males have a big white patch in the back of the head. If you get the light right, you get an iridescent sheen of green, but how often do you get it right? Females are small, same size as the males, probably hanging out with the males, and they are mostly very dark brown, almost blackish, with this big obvious ear spot. If you see that, that's all you need. The nice thing about black and white sea ducks is they don't have an eclipsed plumage like a lot of the puddle ducks. They're pretty much the same year-round. That cuts back on a lot of confusion. Male common eiders. Year-round, what you see is what you get. They're always this. It's really hard to misidentify these. It's the biggest duck in North America. Even a king eider is a little smaller. In fact, there's not a lot that's tricky about common eiders. The only tricky part is on the East Coast, we've got basically two. We get a lot of common eiders. We get a few king eiders. They're pretty rare. On the West Coast, you've got four. Throw in Steller's eider and spectacle eider. And I can't help you there much because I've only ever seen two spectacle eiders, and they were both a half a mile away in Nome, Alaska through a spotting scope. That's my total experience with them. As for the king eider, it's smaller, black in the back, and has a steep forehead and knobbly orange bill, giving it a silhouette much different than the common eider. And I don't know where you are, but the king eiders that hang out in Maine are usually in a flock of common eiders, so all you really have to do is pick out the oddball. Female common eiders are universal brown. And be careful because in a low sun, they can look really golden brown. Oh, and here's another thing. Males are with the females from winter through spring. But once mating is over, the males have nothing further to do with the chicks. In fact, they'll get out of the way. And for the second half of summer and into fall, you won't see a lot of males with the females. Could be a whole lot of brown eiders out there and not a single male. Meanwhile, the immatures are sort of a patchwork of black and white. They will hang out with the females. Female king eiders are a little smaller than the males, but not by much. They've got a black bill and they're more mottled in the back. Otherwise, they're hard. Immature male king eiders have a pale orange bill and a whitish chest. But honestly, I don't think I've ever seen one. And if I did, I guarantee you I didn't recognize it. Siri, did you tell me it was going to snow today? Male black scoters aren't hard at all up close. Totally black, bright yellow bill. Even the immatures, totally black with a pale yellow bill coming into its color. There's a bunch of them right off here now. Female black scoters are brown, uniformly brown, with a light colored cheek patch. You would be surprised how far away you can see that at a distance. In fact, if I get a flock of scoters way off, I have an easier time recognizing the females because of that broad white cheek patch than I do the smaller field marks in the male. Usually, at a distance, it's the females telling me what they are. Oh, and all scoters have a tendency to dive together when they're feeding, but black scoters do it more than anybody, and usually in bigger flocks. Seriously, you can tell black scoters a half mile away if you can see yellow bills or a white cheek patch or cooperative diving all at once. Male surf scoters are obvious because of that white back ball patch, the white in front of the face next to the bill, and the orangish bill. At a distance, just see if you can see a scoter-like bird showing a little bit of white up there somewhere. That white in the male surf scoter fades a little bit later in summer, and the immatures really don't have much, but usually they flock up, and in a flock you can usually find at least one that looks the way it's supposed to and tip you off what they are. Females, same size as the surf scoter, but they are brown with a white spot around the ear and another one right behind the bill. 2 spots. Black and surf scoters are the same size. White-winged scoters, they're bigger. White-winged scoters are uniformly black, and they do have the white wing patches. Those can be concealed when they're just sitting in the water, but not for long. Usually they move enough to flash that white. And if you're close enough, you can see the little white teardrop around the male's eye. Same with the females. They have a hard time concealing that white wing flash. But really, size and wing patches, that's all you need. Now that's a lot of black and white ducks, but there is some color out there in the ocean. Long-tailed ducks are a welcome white duck out there in the water, often in flocks. Up close, long-tailed ducks are unmistakable, but even at a distance, it's a lot of white that doesn't look like a gull, especially because it's diving. Female, same size of course, but dark and don't have that long tail. But these long-tailed ducks start mating up really early, so you've almost always got males and females right next to each other for easy comparison. Really, the only challenge is that these guys are in their brightest mating colors in winter when they're pairing up. Before they go back to the Arctic, before they leave the coast, before they leave Maine waters here, they will change over to their dark plumage. It's better when you're up north nesting to be a little darker and less noticeable. So there is a brief period just before they go north where they don't look like themselves. Oh, and there's a flock of them right out there. Nothing is prettier than Harlequin ducks. They nest from Iceland to Siberia, but really only wintering along the coast, and in the summer, they're in the raging whitewater rivers up north. In the winter, they're going to be right in the surf zone. So typically, they're close to shore and you can get a good look. Of course, I'm kind of lucky. The biggest wintering population in the eastern United States is not far from my house. Up close, males are unmistakable. Females are mistakable. They're brown, relatively small, and they have an ear spot that makes you think of the female bufflehead. But when they're on their wintering grounds, they're on their mating grounds. And so you'll almost never find a female that doesn't have a male or two or three hanging around her. Recently, I did another video on identifying freshwater ducks. I'll put a link at the end, which is only a minute away. Now, there are some black and white ducks that are often on freshwater, but can be on saltwater, that look a lot like these other black and white ducks. Scops, ring-necked ducks, golden eyes. That will take a little care to sort out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Woo! That's a good flyby of great cormorants. And in that other video you're about to watch or rewatch, I did mergansers, and red-breasted mergansers are going to be out here a lot. I see them from here down to the Florida Everglades. And lastly, just keep in mind, some of those puddle ducks actually can be comfortable in salt water, especially when the lakes are frozen. So American widgeon I see in salt water a lot. Mallards, black ducks, I see them in salt water a lot. So that's just a quickie on how to identify ducks in the ocean. Now, let's go find some ducks.